Yeah.
Oh.
Hi, how are you? Good.
You leaving now or what?
I don't know. Really. I don't see him.
I saw him leaving, but I was coming in.
Oh, maybe he doesn't have to be. Well, he should be though.
Yeah.
Okay,
My brother-in-law.
a little past time, but we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting of the Hermiston Budget Committee to order. Looks like all members are present. We have committee member Josh Roberts online as well, so all members are present. With that, start with the introductions. We'll start with me and go around the room and come back around, so make it easy. I'm Doug Primer. I am the city council president. Not present is our mayor. He's otherwise detained. And to me, this is a big step that we all take every year. So one of the most important things that we do every single year is ensure that the city has the funds necessary to continue on. And, you know, we are the stewards of that money. So, you know, we all, I'm sure, take this responsibility for exactly what it is. So with that, Juanis?
Anton Wallace, been a budget committee member for, I think, 3-4 years now.
Jason McAndrew. I've been on the budget committee for some time.
Maria Duran, City Council member.
Lori Davis.
David McCarthy, City Council.
Paul Magana, Budget Committee.
Jackie Myers, City Council.
Ed Brookshire, Budget Committee.
Rod Harden, City Council.
John Douglas, Budget Committee.
Roy Brown, City Council.
Dave Hanson, Budget Committee.
Jackie Linton, City Council.
Brian Meissner, Budget Committee.
Nancy Peterson, City Council.
That's fine. I can see that. Yeah, it's on.
Now, whoever is here, we have the requirement to select a chairperson to take care of, to run this business. So at this time, we'll take nominations for chairperson and chair. Go ahead, Juanis.
I nominate Brian Meissner.
I second.
We have Brian Meissner. Do you accept the nomination? Yes. Okay. See, I get nominated sometimes and stuff, but I don't get that choice, so I figured I'd give you the chance. Any other nominations? All right, seeing none. Those in favor, raise your hand.
Okay.
Those opposed? Mr. Meissner, the chair is yours.
Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone here, and I guess our next order of business is to select a secretary of the Budget Committee. So I'll accept any nominations at this time.
Technically, I would do everything, so you just assign what I tell you to.
Then
I
I
know.
will nominate Lori Davis.
I was just about to second that.
Hey. Lori Davis has been nominated and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Lori.
You're welcome.
And so I guess it's Mr. Smith's turn to present the budget message for the upcoming year, fiscal year.
Try this out. I didn't know if I was down or.
Be up here, but hopefully all those people will have my back. We'll see. So I'm really happy to be here this year again to do, I think, exactly what Mr. Primer said, as far as one of the most important actions we take as a city is to adopt a budget. And it's a policy statement by the council and kind of sets priorities for staff and is a great way for us to kind of check in with members of the community through the budget committee. So we're going to start out with just kind of a recap, look at a few things that happened in 23-24. We'll do a little introduction of the budget, kind of do an overview of some factors that come into the budget as we look at planning in the future, and then we'll go through the enterprise zone or the enterprise funds, and then the general fund, and then we'll be open for discussion. But actually, I'd really like it to also, if you got a question as we go through a certain department or something, please feel free to ask, and we'll try to discuss that as we go along as well. All right, so just as a recap, you know, we had a lot longer discussion about the budget last year than we normally do. And so then after the budget was adopted, we did some detailed budget sessions, discussions, looking at the general fund in particular, held a budget town hall. And I think at the end, we came up with a good outcome for the community. I know it wasn't the most pleasant process, but I think it was good. It was a good discussion and a good look at what kind of a community do we want? What kind of services does the community look for from the city, and how we go forward from that. So to start with, this was probably our biggest street project that we've done in quite a while. It was good to complete that. North First Place. You got some pictures of the construction, and it was a little bit longer than a normal street project just because we went in and did all of the underground infrastructure upgrade, and then came across with the road surface. There's also potentially we'll have a little bit longer. We're in discussions to try to finish that off with coming to some conclusion with the railroad. There's a little discussion over how much right of way they have and how much right of way we have, and we think we hope we have a path to getting a sidewalk down the other side. So I'll have both sides. Another project that got completed this year, Theater Sports Park, the ditch that goes there on the edge of that park and along Theater Lane. We were able to bury the Hermiston drain along that section, and it really is going to expand the available land for the park, and then also kind of takes out an area that has been a little bit of a problem from a camping standpoint. So it really meets a couple of good goals, but something that was good to get completed. And then this isn't a project necessarily of the cities, though we're doing a number of things in this area. This year, Amazon started construction on actually the first 2 of their campuses within the city limits. And so the picture on the left is just after their initial dirt work on the first campus. And then you see the first building, and then there's the substation under construction. And then they've started construction on a second campus there right adjacent to this property.
Question?
Yeah.
Did the first two projects come in on time and on budget?
Those,
First Street and the,
yes, the first street, we're actually, we have, so that was funded mainly by a grant from the state, and we have about, is it $1 million? 1.4 million of that grant left over that we can continue to look at something along that corridor to make some improvements. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we're still working on it. The second one, it actually, I mean, it kind of evolved. So technically it came in over budget, because initially we were going to do that project in conjunction with the irrigation district. We were going to buy the pipe. They were going to bury the pipe. Came to the point of construction, they weren't able to finish the burying of the pipe. So we ended up having to spend a little more than we originally planned. But we still think we got it at a good price, but it wasn't in our original budget.
how much over budget were you?
Probably $200,000 to do the final burying. So as part of that budget review process, I just wanted to check back in with the budget committee that, you know, part of what I talked about as we were looking at that, I had a lot of questions about why did we get in that position, those types of things, and great questions. So one of the things that we're going to do in addition to the changes and the additional revenue that the council adopted is to develop a multi-year projection model so that we're looking better, we're doing a better job of looking down the road, what impacts do, you know, staff additions or other things. And we're also going to work at updating our monthly financial reporting to the council so that they can feel like they're more informed. And then as well, we're going to review the process that we've gone through with the budget and the budget committee. Do we need to make some changes, add some things, take away some things? We're going to look at all of it. But none of those are completed because in this process, we have also hired a new finance director. So I'm sure Ignacio's super excited to have his picture up. But we're real excited to have Ignacio here. Lifelong Oregon resident, Oregon State grad. I know there may be some ducks in the room, but 25 plus years in finance and accounting in public sector, private sector. He also had work as an auditor, so that we feel like that's going to give us a great perspective to look at what we're doing with the budget and to keep us on track as we go forward. So his first task was to get this budget in front of you, and so he hasn't had a chance to help us focus on the other 3 items, but we'll be doing that over the next 6 months and working with the council to talk through those issues. So really want to thank all of the council or all of the finance department staff for their work on this budget document. The look of it made a big step forward. I really want to thank Tasha back there that she really got a handle on some new software that we have been using that really, I think the look of it really improved a lot. And so we're really happy with that. Appreciate the department heads for their work on putting together a budget. And then I want to, again, thank all of you for being here to help us in the process. So those of you who have a binder will be using the tabs. If you're using an electronic device, page numbers, they're in the bottom right-hand corner of the pages. So we're going to jump in with a little bit of review. Again, our budget versus your home budget's a little different. You know, we have funds and we have different types of revenue coming into each fund. And so we're always trying to track those separately. And so some of it makes our budget inflated. You know, when I come to talk about the all funds budget, we have to account for transfers. And sometimes that means it gets counted twice because we moved it from one fund to another and then we spent it. And so that gets counted twice. But that's what we have to do. That's the way fund accounting works. And that's also the requirements that the state makes for us as we look at our budget. So now some of the factors we look at. So we're continuing slow, steady growth. So we finally broke that coveted 20,000 population number this year. We've run into some weird things with the Portland State estimates, but they gave us credit for enough people to get us over 20,000. They always seem to undercount what we do, but we haven't been able to figure out exactly why, but we're here and we're continuing to grow slow and steady. You know, it's a great way to grow. It helps us keep infrastructure up to date as we go and not get overwhelmed by some of the things that happen on a faster pace. So our assessed value, now we're a little over 1.3 billion for the city's assessed value. Again, we're averaging about 4.5% year over year growth in our assessed value. That's good. I mean, that's reflecting our slow and steady growth on the population side as well. So then just overall, like I mentioned, we've had ground broken on the second Amazon campus in the city. We have a little bit of new commercial that came on with Popeyes. We added 89 new residential dwelling permits in 2023. So again, just kind of moving slow and steady. The residential growth has been impacted obviously by the interest rates that we have going on right now. So we would anticipate that might change if those rates change. We don't think that's going to happen during this calendar year just because of the election and all of the things that impact those decisions. So now our all funds budget, 109 million. It's down 20% approximately. The reason it's gone down, AWS capital projects, some of those have gotten completed. And so we are, I mean, it's just gone down some. We jumped way up to the 136 million last year. So coming down kind of puts us more in our normal range. So as we look at things going forward, always looking at the vision and goals and values that the council adopts. This does contain, this proposed budget contains a 3% wage increase for all of the employees. There's no PERS rate changes in this one because we're in the second year of the biennium. So we would anticipate next year we would see another increase on the PERS rates, but this budget doesn't have that. We have seen larger growth in our property and liability insurance. Now, granted, it's not a big total dollar, but it's 16% growth in that. It just impacts all of the departments. And then health insurance rates, we'd been staying under double-digit increases for the last few years, but we're again right at 10% this time. So health insurance rates are impacting our overall costs.
Question?
Yeah.
What's 3% mean? What's the dollar amount that equates to?
Yeah, just 1 second. I've got that.
I don't know if it's 300,000 or 500,000.
So it's about 300,000 across a total of 154 FTEs.
Good, thank you.
So we'll start with the IT fund. This is the kind of the latest operational fund that we have. It's on page 66 if you want to turn to that in your budget book. Their budget's about $1.5 million. We get about 1.1 million from our customers. We're now at about 10 customers, I think, total. It costs the city about 261,000. We have 7 employees currently, and in the proposed budget is an additional employee, but that we would only add if we add additional contracts with other customers. We have been approached by a couple of other smaller entities in our region, and so we may need that, but we didn't know for sure, so we wanted to propose it so that we didn't have to come back if that opportunity came.
Thanks.
So yes.
Well, last year we froze a couple positions, but still listed them in the budget. Would this be such as I think the Parks Department position, this would be a similar structure to where only if the appropriate revenues come in,
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be technically frozen because we've budgeted the money for it, but we wouldn't hire anybody until we knew we had additional revenue. And, you know, did another question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
I think when we were talking about this, that we were supposed to be coming up with a balanced budget with the, how many, people we take on, that we wouldn't try to be spending any of our money in our accounts.
No, I mean, the way I've always put it forward is that we would still need to pay for our services that the city gets from the IT fund, but the benefit to us is that if we just paid 261,000, we would not have 7 employees and we would not have the depth of talent that we have. And so, you know, we feel like we're paying our fair share. This is roughly, it's just probably about $50,000 over what we had estimated we would have been paying the ESD when we started the IT fund. So we're doing a pretty good job of staying close to what we had been paying in the past for what I would say is light years better service. So we are charging ourselves. We're not making money, you know, but that's always been our plan. Okay. Street fund is on page 36. The operational budget in this fund is about 2.3 million. And, you know, we do we do a great job sweeping the streets. We do a lot of maintenance, crack filling, other things as we're maintaining the streets. And then we also have a little bit of money set aside to do some larger street maintenance projects. The one that's planned in this proposed budget is on page 78. And that is the Gear Harper intersection. We've been working at that for a little while. And this year, hopefully we can get the final right of way we need and finalize that project and build it. So the project dollars are budgeted out of the reserve fund because that's where we've been setting aside our street CIP funds. So it's budgeted there on page 78 for about $1 million to finish. We've done some design, but we haven't, and we've done some work on the right of way, but we need to straighten out one issue on the right of way that's still out there. So
any estimates on when it will get started?
I think we might be hopeful that we could get constructed, maybe started in the spring of next year. Is that pretty? So spring of next year, we can get everything kind of worked out and be out to bid. Yeah.
I would just like to say as a citizen, thank you for Gear Road, the crossing. I drive that all the time, and every time I do, good project.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been an intersection that's been on the radar for a long time. Yeah.
Which I think the city manager said we were gonna put a roundabout somewhere over there.
No,
No.
Not my question, but
Well, we tried, but that darn railroad, it just won't let us get enough room to make a roundabout fit.
It did one thing right.
Yeah.
city manager, I did have a question on the street fund. I know a couple of financial decisions that we made, which was to take a percentage, if I'm not mistaken, it was a fifth or a third of the percentage that we usually get. So I guess operationally, how do we stand now that we've had a few months to look at projecting a little bit outward? Yeah, so the decision that Mr. Brown's talking about is part of the budget. When we had adopted some increases to the franchise fees a number of years ago and dedicated that to street projects. And that was originally 33% of the franchise fees went to that. So as part of the budget discussion, the council reduced that percentage to 10%. But those were all monies going to projects. They weren't to the operations. Our state gas tax money is still what we're using for operations. And so
We had already saved up this $1 million for the Gear and Harper project, and we have some other money that we would program into the future for larger projects. But it will impact after a couple of years how quickly we can get back to another big project.
Thank you for your answer. I guess with that, I guess having cuts there, and we've talked about gas taxes and how those revenues are going down as years go by. So I guess I'm thinking about the long-term longevity of the department, and I appreciate your answers, and looks like we're gonna maybe have to find some other revenues or sources at some point.
Yeah, potentially. I know this next year, the state has a plan to go out for another transportation bill. And they're going to be actually here in Hermiston in August to talk about that. But the legislative committees are. And so some of the things that they're talking about is going to a per mile fee for in place of or as part of a gas tax revenue. But the state is going to have to solve that problem. All of our operational monies right now are coming from our share of that gas tax, and that includes other fees, registration fees, things like that. So, I mean, if it gets too bad on our end, we may have to look at what local things could we do to augment that. But right now, we can still feel like we can take good care of the streets that we have, and then have to watch that as it goes forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. All right, the utility fund, and then we'll start with recycled water. Page 47. The operational budget on this is proposed at $7.5 million. And this includes one additional request for one additional position. And I can't remember the fancy name that we came up with, but it's to do a couple of programs. One is industrial pretreatment. That's probably the most important one. So we have our first customer right now who is required to do some pretreatment to their effluent that comes out of their business. And we feel like we need to get in a better position to be monitoring that and to making sure that they're staying within the requirements that we've put on their effluent, and that we anticipate that there could be more businesses like that coming in the future. And we may already have some others, that we weren't aware of, but we're requesting this position to start working on that program, get it going, as well as something that we call FOG, fats, oils, and greases. Most restaurants, or I think almost all restaurants, are required to have a separator so that their grease doesn't come into our sewer system because it doesn't do well for our pipes. And so, but we're pretty sure that that's not being done 100%. And so we need someone to be more proactive on making sure that those things are taken care of. So that's the two programs that this position would be in charge of and getting started. And then there may be some others that we add in the future. Yes.
They monitor that.
Well, they would be going out to, do inspections of their separator and making sure that it's functioning properly. We can also test, we can go in the sewer and see, you can go and so our regular staff would be checking, making sure there's not evidence of problems. And then if there is, they can go and follow up with the business that is the likely culprit.
Who has fat water?
Yes. Yeah, anywhere that you're getting French fries or anything fried, you're going to have a lot of that possibility of coming into your sewer system. So,
City manager, is that not like the jurisdiction of the county health department or people at?
no, not from this standpoint. It's our system, so we need to make sure that they're doing what they're. I mean, it's a requirement of building codes and all of that, but it's our responsibility to monitor that.
Do we get any money back from the discharge system for AWS?
So All right. And just before we go, any other questions about the new position? No, that's all right. So then the capital projects, one of the largest that we're putting under the recycled water is it's building a new system for the discharge of what they call, or what's called, non-contact cooling water. So the data centers bring raw Columbia River water, run it through an evaporative cooling system that cools the servers, and that water then comes out pretty much clean. The only thing it's done is there's been some of it evaporate, and so there's a concentration of solids in that. So it comes at such a large quantity that we don't want to put it in our sewer system because it would ruin the chemistry of the sewer system and take up a bunch of our capacity for other growth. So building a separate system to discharge that and getting the extra value of being able to reuse that water. So on the capital side, reuse the water in agriculture, because there's no restrictions on the farmers from being able to apply it to their crops and grow with it. On the capital side, all of that $800,000 will be paid for by Amazon. So we'll be reimbursed for that project. On the other side, once the system is operational, the customers of that system, which will only be Amazon to start with, it could be other companies, would then pay a rate for us to maintain and operate the system. That hasn't been set yet. I mean, we will be working on that over probably the next year to get that in place, so that as soon as they're ready to use the system, we'll have a rate set for them to pay for us to take and move their water where it needs to go.
You think they'll be the first customer, but you said farming as well?
Well, the farming we will just take it and we're going to dump it in a canal, and the canal then will distribute it to their customers.
Being paid for that too, or not?
At this point, no.
Precious.
It is precious.
We're in the farming
Would you be dumping that water into the canal system after treatment? What would the treatment be?
There won't be much treatment. It's
just evaporated, it's a little more concentrated. That's what, minerals and whatnot.
yeah, just with some what we would call solids.
Goes into the canal and then we pump it out onto the alfalfa.
Right.
Sounds like a good solution.
Yeah, it's really been a great model for us to watch. The city of Umatilla already has a system they've built for the Amazon campuses that have gone there, and they've found it to be successful. So.
Could we pump it back into the aquifer?
No. The state requires, if we're going to pump water into the aquifer, it has to be at drinking water standards. So, I mean, we'd have to set up a treatment system and then inject it. We actually have some projects along that line. We're not ready to spend that kind of money on it, so it's really not spelled out in the budget, but we're working on another way to do that.
Thank you.
To try to replenish our aquifer. Yeah.
My question is, you said there's going to be a fee for Amazon when they start using that. So will they cover all of it until someone else?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Yes.
Under something like that would basically be, they pay all of whatever the fee is, somebody else they split it with depending on their share of the use.
What we would do is set up just a fee that would cover our costs to maintain the system and set a rate to recover that cost. And then anybody who uses it would pay that rate. Okay, then the next large project in the recycled water budget is a rebuild of lift station number 4, and we spent a little extra on a couple of our lift stations over here on the First Place project. That's where we ran into a railroad car and all kinds of fun stuff coming under the railroad. So now we're ready to do our next rebuild on lift station number 4. And I'm not sure, where's that, Mark? Okay, Butte and Ridgeway. So back behind the park. All right. And then there's a bunch of smaller projects, and every year you'll see a line in there where we're putting away money to replace the main parts of the treatment plant. So pumps and motors, I just lost, what are the membrane?
Membranes.
Yeah, I could not, the membrane. So we were told when we installed those, $1 million, and you'll have to replace it every year. I mean, every 10 years. So we've been putting away a little bit. Thankfully, we've been able to, we're moving past the 10-year mark and they're still in good shape. So we're happy to see that, but at some point in the near future, we'll have to replace all those membranes. So that's what we're setting aside money for. All right, now on the water side in the utility fund, page 49. This is in the operational budget, it's about 7.1 million. We're not requesting additional staff or any major changes on the operational side for the water department. The major capital projects, and this is what we were talking about earlier as far as kind of has inflated our total budget amount, but Amazon Web Services is paying for us to expand our regional water system. And so that's about a $15 million total project. It's a number of different items, but we'll be working on that throughout this fiscal year. We may not get all of those projects done, but we think we're going to get a big chunk of them.
And once again, Amazon.
They're reimbursing every
Whole bill.
Every bill, engineering, everything, they're paying for it all. Then the next project down, this one will impact everybody, I think. $2 million. There's a lot of 100-year-old water main that we're going to replace. That's on Main, Gladys, and Hurlburt between 2nd and or 3rd and 7th, and it's not exactly on every street that distance, but roughly in those ranges. So that will be starting. It'll start a little bit in this fiscal year before the end of June, but the main part will be next year. And then well number 4, which is the well over by our public works yard. We need to redo all the controls and some of the things kind of internal to the function of the well, and that's about $400,000. So, any questions? All right, Hermiston Energy Services, page 53, $14.5 million operating budget. We really don't have any large singular projects. We have kind of an ongoing maintenance program. We've also been looking at, as part of that maintenance program, is we've been, there's some underground wire was left over from the previous owner of the system, where they direct buried a lot of wire. They didn't put it in conduit. And so we're going through to replace all that because it's starting to malfunction. And so we continue to just bite off small chunks of that every year, and that's in this budget. Yes.
I guess a statement more than, but Bonneville has increased their costs to us by 36%.
Yes.
How much of that is plain Santa Claus? A lot.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to go look at Bonneville Power's budget to see. But yeah, I mean, that's probably some of the main focus of the general manager of HES is spending a lot of time with the public power entities that purchase from Bonneville to try to make sure our rates don't get overly inflated for a lot of environmental issues that come to them. And so it's a lot of discussion, a lot of trying to push back, but it happens.
Where mainly are these projects that they have to dig up the conduit, whatever they have to?
Yeah, they're kind of scattered around the city, different places. There's I think the last one they were working on was around East Pine, and kind of between probably like 6th and 9th, somewhere in there was a section. I know there was another section over by the high school. So it's kind of all over. And so we just are trying to pick and choose, get it done as we can.
Comment, I have to agree with Mr. Brookshire, especially on the power draw that it's having. And I know that's, I guess, a couple of systems above us with Bonneville Power, but they've been paying their fair share, and we've talked about doing that, especially with the new contracts that we've had with Amazon, making sure that we're also being fulfilled for the work that they're doing here in our community. But there's been more and more articles saying, like, you know, how much draw of power that they're having, and as a result, that comes down to us as ratepayers. So even though they've been paying fair share with water, sewer, and other things, it seems to it's still having an impact on our community. So
Yeah, but I would also say, you know, we HES don't provide power to Amazon, but UEC does. And I know they operate on the same policy we do, in that Amazon pays for everything. So any infrastructure that goes in power-wise, they pay for. I think the challenge that people are finding is just trying to make sure there's enough available power.
Yeah.
And it seems like UEC's been doing a good job of kind of figuring out how to do that and work with Bonneville to up their infrastructure that then provides us more power. Yes.
Going back to your capital projects, is that the reason on your capital projects that the city planning budget has gone up about 600,000 and your contractual have gone up about 541? So you're getting about $1 million, 1 or 2. That's an increase?
No, actually, all of the dollars in the planning department, we have 3 programs that we're working on that we're paying consultants to help us with, and that's what that increase is. One is it's what we call Safe Streets for All. It's a federal program. If we have a safety plan, then we qualify. We check one of the boxes to get another grant further down, construction-wise. The other one is our transportation system plan. It's a required plan that we have in our comprehensive plan. It's time for that to be updated, so we're updating that with a consultant. And then the third, and then we're also working on UGB expansion. It's a urban growth boundary. Sorry, I use all the acronyms. That's the land that we say we're going to grow into next.
So that's why we have $1.5 million increase.
Right, for consultants to pay for that. And we have grants for the 2 programs, and we have Amazon paying for the urban growth boundary discussion.
So we're spending to get it. Good.
Yes.
Okay.
So it isn't really an increase.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's an increase, but we also receive revenue to cover it at the same time. Yeah,
we get a major reward from it.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Byron,
Yeah.
could I go back to the water just one more?
Uh-huh.
time? If you're gonna pump the used water into the canal system, what happens when we close the canal systems?
So Amazon only really uses water during the growing season. It's
Okay.
when it's super hot, and so it really matches well with,
The cooling in the winter.
right.
Okay.
Right. All right. Now we're almost done with our enterprise funds. EOTech is on page 62. Our operational budget is approximately 900,000 for that. It's a little, their overall budget is a little higher because we have some capital projects going on out there. We're in conjunction with the county. We're extending the size of 2 of the 3 barns that are out there. And all of that money is being funded either a grant directly to the county or a grant to us. And so we're paying for that capital in that way. But frankly, this budget is really looking a lot better on a year-to-year basis. We are not, as many people accuse us, that there's no property tax that's going to support EOTech. Now, there is transient room tax, the tax you pay at a hotel. Some of that goes towards EOTech, but no property tax pays for operations there. And so it's still using that tax. I don't know that we'll ever stop with that part of it, but the activity and the revenues are going well. I think I shared this example the other day, but went up to EOTech for UEC's annual meeting. And while we were, going there were 3 events going on. There was a lacrosse tournament in the front field, UEC meeting in the big building, and there was a rodeo going on in the rodeo grounds. So I think that was the vision for what that facility could do, is provide a lot of different opportunities to bring people to our community, and as well as provide, an asset for the community itself. So it's going well. So now we'll jump to the general fund. So comparing this to fiscal year 24 last year, or actually the current year we're in, about a $2.6 million increase, 15%. And most of that, I'll highlight a little bit later where that's coming from. But so why the increase? So this will be the first full year for the 3 new officers that we adopted in the January supplemental budget. And then as we were going through this last 6 months or so, we were approached by the Good Shepherd Healthcare System, and they want to start a program similar to what we do with the school district, so we could call it a hospital resource officer, something like that, where they want to have an officer on duty at the hospital, a law enforcement officer. And so what we're proposing is 4 additional officers. That would be 1 on each shift, and Good Shepherd is going to pay all of that cost. Equipment, salary, benefits, everything. So we think it's a good partner. That officer would primarily be there, but for emergencies, for things, they would be able to respond and help if there were large emergencies out in the city. So, and then this next item, I just want to put a red flag for this. Could be a discussion item in future years. 3% increase on our dispatch costs. And so we weren't able to reflect that full increase in the budget because we weren't given communication from the county until May 7th. And that was after this budget was put together and ready to go out. And so we've been trying to work with the sheriff and the county commissioners on this issue in particular. And so I just want to put that on your radar screen, and then in the future, we may need to talk about it more. So, yes. Not that percentage high, but everyone is a big jump. No, all of us received notice on May 7th. And every other city had their budget put together, the fire district, everybody. Yeah.
And I think there is some alternatives that maybe you guys are looking at, because
yeah, we're working on talking about options.
Well, the dispatch center doesn't even have bilingual dispatchers in most cases. That's not what we're in.
Well, I mean, we don't need to debate all of that. Yeah, this is just a red flag. That's a big jump in cost. We went from, mid 300s to 650. So that's something we have to, I have to put on your radar screen because that worries me. So, Jackie.
Well, my question was, our avenue to dig deeper into this is?
Well, we're going to continue to try to work with the sheriff, and we're trying to institute some improved communication mechanisms, more regular meetings or something. And then, if we've brought the commissioners into that discussion and then see if that works. If not, we'll have to explore what other options might be there. There's a number, but I'd like to try to figure it out with the sheriff if we can.
But it's a done deal for now.
For right now, I mean, we couldn't, let's say we decided we wanted to do something different. I mean, we'd probably be 2 years before we could implement that, just because the startup time to get a place and get it staffed and all of that stuff. So that would be a minimum. Sorry. Brian.
Has it been identified what drives an 83% increase?
Yeah, a majority of that was a portion of union negotiations and some other some salary studies that have been done and increases funded by the county. We're just asking for more discussion about those kinds of things, some more input, because we contributed a good amount of money and like to at least have some discussion about that, Mr. Brookshire.
Okay, so they were able to demonstrate to your satisfaction where that 83% was?
They were able to demonstrate where they are. I'm not sure it's to my satisfaction, but it's okay. I mean, we'll keep talking about it. All right, and then on the expense side, a couple other items. So all of the reductions that we proposed in kind of non-personnel expenses, we carried that forward into this year, trying to hold the line on the different items. We have continued to leave 2 part-time library positions frozen, and that's not from, the discussion we had was that the citizens were interested in continuing to have the level of library services we offer, but we're going into the construction period where we won't be operating at the same level. And so being able to freeze the positions doesn't impact what we'll provide in this next year. In the following budget, we'll be talking about bringing those positions back when we are ready to open the library after the renovation. So. And then we did restore the 1 recreation coordinator position that had been frozen in the past as well. And that's in the full, it's a full-time year position. So. Now, if you want to turn to page 8 and 9, just to take a look at the different revenue sources that some of them were adopted by the council directly, others came through some contract increases. So first, you'll see there's a $140,000 increase in the sanitary disposal. They increased their rates, and so that's going to increase our administrative fees and franchise that we have with them, and so that increases revenue to the general fund. The contract with Good Shepherds is $650,000 increase. The franchise fee increase that we talked about with Mr. Barone is about $500,000 additional to the general fund. The business license, that fee hasn't been fully established. We're still working with a committee, the business community, to come up with the final fee. But because where we were in the budget process, we've just plugged $100,000. If we don't get quite to that, I think we can figure out how to get through this fiscal year. But that's where that is. Mr. McCarthy.
I know that the chamber sent out a survey regarding fees. Has the city been provided with the results of those?
Yeah, we have seen them, and we're working to schedule a meeting of that committee so that we can kind of finalize the recommendation back to the council. And then the last item, the law enforcement staffing fee, $270,000. That's $5 per account, utility account per month, and so we budgeted a little conservatively, but we're pretty comfortable with where the numbers are. Any questions on these? No.
Just on electrical permits, any reason why we went from 80,000 to almost 200,000?
Amazon. And the one thing, I think I mentioned this last year that we were going to try to make a change, but Ignacio talked me out of it since he was putting together his first budget for us. But the state requires us that all building fees, electrical permits, everything for that be spent only on building department functions. And so the plan is for next year to move that into its own fund so that we can better track and show that how we're accounting for those dollars. And so some of those items won't be in the general fund next year, but the expenses for the building department won't be either, so. All right, any questions?
Can you go over what the bond situation? When are you gonna get to that, or?
Yeah, we can, if you want to turn to,
I can't hear your.
oh, he wanted to know about the bond funds and how what projects we're doing with those. If you want to turn to, the bond fund is on page 101. And basically that fund is just kind of the accountability fund, for lack of a better term. That's where the bond dollars went in, and then we've transferred them into other funds to actually build the projects. It's kind of a weird situation. You don't often get in it in that. Interest rates are in such a good position for us. We're probably going to have to pay the IRS because we'll earn, even in the short time, I think we'll have spent most of our money within 2 years, most of the bond, but we'll earn more interest than they allow us to earn because they're tax exempt bonds, so forth. Anyway, so we wanted to be extra clear at where that interest is so that we can be clear with the IRS when they come knocking. So, but.
Could you re-clarify how much we're spending on the library, how much we're doing on the public safety building?
Yeah, so that's, and that one kind of goes into a different fund. We have 2 areas where we're kind of handling that. So on the next page, 102, that's where we're doing a number of the projects out of. And so the total budget for the library is $4.5 million. Our portion of the public safety building will be $7.5 million. And then we will have $750,000 for Harkenrider, $750,000 for the renovation of the IT space and the ARC building. Each one had that much. And then also a $750,000 assistance up at EOTech to the prices of those the barn projects went over what we had gotten in grants, so this will help cover that. Now, some of those projects, the numbers in the budget may not match that exactly because we've spent some this year on each of those projects. We spent a lot of design money. We're actually under construction in the Harkenrider Center and downstairs in the IT space. So we expect some of that will be spent this budget year, but some we will need for finishing up those projects after the fiscal year. And then also, as far as the total amount in that bond, there's also $5 million in the urban renewal budget to build a road on the North Hermiston in urban renewal area. And Clint will be covering that budget in a few minutes after this one. So,
Thank you.
yeah, anything that we talked about or anything that I didn't cover that you had a question about? Right. Did you say 27 is where that is? All right. So we have been trying to work with the seniors, yes, and what it is, it's a portion of a position. It's a portion of a position to try to just help them with administrative things and making sure to cover, because they do a lot with volunteers. So trying to make sure that it's just reflecting increases in those employees' salaries. And so, the total, the personnel costs, we're just allocating because of the renovations. We feel we're going to spend some more time there, because we'll be renting the space with them also. So during the hours they have allocated, they can rent, and do some things, and we also can schedule events. And so we'll have not only somebody kind of on administrative, but also help and move, set up for meetings, take down, that type of thing. So we think that with that opening up a little bit, we'll be spending more of our time there. That's why the number went up.
The budget including aside for officers.
So one in water and sewer, or sewer in particular, then the one potential in IT. And then now the number I know is looking different, but we recalculated the number of part-time hours we do in the Parks and Rec department. And so the employee count, the FTE count is higher than it was last year, but it reflects about the same amount of money. It's just how we have allocated it. Right, lifeguards and people working in the parks, yes.
Some of the, electricity expenses went to zero, specifically the pool, the library, the airport, the senior center, all the electrical.
Yeah, so as part of our budget discussion, we were able to basically allow HES is gonna write off the cost of those electric bills.
My final question. So on page 32, the other equipment and the capital outlay for the police, it goes up to 40,000. Do you have any other equipment is kind of vague? Do you have like a?
Well, that's really upping the equipment for those new officers, outfitting them initially. And then, Jason, where's your lease? Car lease?
Our lease went up significant, but 10 vehicles are supposed to drop off. Should see about $100,000. Question is specific to all of the equipment for officers.
Yeah, it'll be covered by the hospital, but yeah.
In your personnel distribution list, you show gaining 6 officers instead of 7.
Well, so that the last budget year, when we added the 3 officers in January, we only thought we would be adding 1 be able to hire 1 additional officer before the end of this fiscal year. And so we had already added 1 of the 3. And then we added the 2 more and the 4 for the hospital. So 1 of the 3 officers was already in the line. Am I not making sense?
Well, you tell us that you're the 7. Part of this discussion is that you added 7 officers, but if that officer was already on here, then you only added 6, and then this says 6.
Right, but what I was trying to say with that slide is we're adding the full cost of 7 new officers because we only had a partial cost of 1 of those in this, because we only had a partial year. We adopted the amendment in January. So we had 5 more months of the year and we didn't know when we would hire that person. So that's why I would just say we would be reflecting all 7 of those officers full cost in this budget.
Okay. And found it earlier and I'm trying to find where I saw it at. It was in regards to the basically paying, you had listed on there for, not last year, but the year before, you had listed on there for $400,000 for the COPS grant as income, but I am not seeing where that's reflected in this budget cycle either.
So that grant would be, in, let's see, if you go page 9. And it's probably a little, it's a little low, but
Yeah,
page 9, the top there, about the third line down is that federal police grant. Like, I mean,
41,000. Thank you.
so again, we only, we share a portion of each of those 3 officers in that grant. And so it's spread over 3 years. So this is, it's probably a little low from what we'll actually collect on that grant.
But it's not in the budget.
Well, we can receive more revenue without it being budgeted. Because Ignacio didn't know all the details of that and I missed it. But we have enough revenue to cover it outside of that.
I
So
understand,
it will
I
augment.
understand that part of it. I just trying to understand why it wasn't included. So, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Two questions. One with page 1.
Okay.
You have miscellaneous special revenue, and anywhere within our budget, when it just says something similar to that, I would like to see, it actually spelled out so we'll know what it's for, because it's basically, you don't know what, the 300 and 3,000 is for, and then other areas within the budget, it's vague. And, I would like to see that spelled out more if at all possible.
Well, if you want to go to page 88, that's that's where we'll see the budget for the miscellaneous special revenue fund. And it's a fund that we use to track a number of kind of weird revenues that we just pass through. So one of those is every permit we issue has a state surcharge on it, and we have to send it on to the state. And so we track that there. That's the first line. If you see service charges, that's also where we, yeah, that is the main one. Because we used to track other things, and this is, as we've been working through the budget and trying to simplify, make it easier to understand, we've tried to move. So, for example, we used to track all of our court fines through that fund, but we don't do that anymore. We put that in the general fund because we have to pay some of those fines to the state and to the county. And so, again, it's just a few revenue sources that are kind of unique and that we need to track separately. So that's what that fund is for, and we don't highlight it, but that's what we use it for.
It might be the same thing for page 14. We went from 23-24 budget of, let me see, it says, miscellaneous contractual. It goes from 185,000, big increase in $500 to 731,000.
Right, so this is the question that Mr. Hanson asked earlier. Those are the grant fund, we're hiring consultants to do the planning projects, the safety, transportation system plan, and the UGB, and so that's the line. That's why it jumped up so much. We're hiring those consultants, and all of those are being covered by other sources of revenue.
How many employees in the finance department?
We have 4 or 5 employees in the finance department.
Let's see here. Page 17. Let me see that.
Okay,
I wanted to know if there's been an increase in service. I think this has to do with it says transportation details.
right. So this is where we fund our senior taxi program out of and our bus system out of. And so there's been some increases on the revenue side in the grants that we receive. And so we've been able to and increase some of and the bus contract has increased as well as our taxi contract has increased.
Okay. Page. There's a, well, my question, I wrote down the wrong page number here, but it has to do with the chamber only getting 3%. I think that's what they've been getting all along. I would
Mhm.
like to know what we can do to increase that.
Okay, I mean, we can have that discussion more with the council, but, you know, that's set in a formula in one of the ordinances where we allocate how we spend the transient room tax, and that's the percentage that in the past the council had decided to send to the chamber.
I'm not sure if we talked about, page 80 yet. I was trying to keep track of when people ask questions, but on page 80, I want to know if the regional water SDC, is this something that's new or has it been?
So we haven't, it's not new, it's always been in place, but the regional water system doesn't add new customers regularly. And so that's why you see, this coming up just this year. And so, that with the addition of the 2 campuses of Amazon in the city, they're getting water through the regional water system. And so they paid an SDC. And some of that is shown here as an expense where we're going to be doing some additional planning to set up a capital improvement plan to make sure we're keeping that system up to date like we are with our city system.
Okay, I'm getting close to.
No problem. I want to answer whatever you have.
All right, on page 92, notice that there were grants that were being put in before, and now they're not putting in for those grants. I was just wondering why.
So actually this is again a simplification. So all of those grants now have moved to the general fund because they're police related grants. And so we spend them on police. We're just going to track them in the general fund rather than the law enforcement special revenue fund.
Okay, that's everything. Thank you.
Okay.
Overview of where we stand with AWS and when the money's coming in, and is there more money, and how you're gonna spend it when you get it, and a few ideas, because it's a big item for us.
So we have limits. And for the first one that has the buildings up on the campus, we will, once they get a certificate of occupancy for those for the first building, we start to get annual payments for 15 years. It will be $1 million to the city. It's another amount, we split that with the county, so it's 2 million, and then the county gets half. And we'll get that. And then as more buildings are added and they get certificates of occupancy, then that amount goes up to a maximum of the $4 million total, right? Yeah.
Per year. Is that what
$4 million every year that they have that number of buildings occupied. The second campus that just started construction, we received this year their first, I forget, the community payment of $5 million. We got 2.5, the county got 2.5. And then that campus follows a similar pattern. Once the first building gets occupied, then $1 million starts to us and $1 million to the county, and then it goes up as they add more buildings.
Do you throw that money in the general fund, or what do you do with
No,
it?
so that's where we have an enterprise zone fund.
Mhm.
Anybody help me with a page number?
I think it's way in the back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on
95,
Yeah,
thank
I knew
you.
it was quite a ways back here.
So again, this is where the funds will come in, and then we'll take and allocate them out to the county. out to the other agencies. There's a public safety fee that goes to the fire district. There's a payment that goes to the school district. And then the money will stay here unless it's allocated to something else to start with. And so right now we make no plans to bring money in directly into the general fund for operations. It's going to pay the debt to build this building. It's going to pay the $20 million bond to build the other buildings that we're working on. And then as we get a little further down the road, we may look at different ways to utilize that, but that's the current plan.
So that game plan is written up somewhere and that this is what we're gonna be doing with the dollars? Is that the
It's not
idea?
written up anywhere. It's what we've had discussions with the council and that's the current game plan. But
It's just good to know because I've been asked that many times and I'm gonna be able to at least say, here's the plan.
yep.
Great. And the $772,000 that we're paying for the bond debt interest, you just said that that's a new expense this year, correct? And
For the 20 million, or actually only 15 of that's going to come out of this enterprise zone fund in the long term. But we also borrowed money to build City Hall using these funds as the repayment source.
Gotcha.
So that debt has been going for a couple of years. I saw a couple of hands. Mm-hmm.
So on the 23 budget, it says 3,000 or 300,000 and we're talking about 83% increase.
Right. That's because we didn't know what the number was going to be when we put the budget together, because we didn't know until May 7th what they were going to, what the allocation for us was going to be. And so our actual number is 654,000. So that's why I'm sorry?
Who else participates in, like HPD, Pendleton?
Yeah, pretty much everybody but Milton Freewater is served by that dispatch center. I'm sorry? And tribal, right. So all the other, the fire districts, all the other law enforcement agents, right.
I'm recalling discussions from at least our first budget meeting of last year where we had increased the advertising fund for EOTech somewhere in the vicinity of 50,000. We reduced it to 15 when it was finally adopted, and we've kept it there. Was there any decision as to why we decided we didn't want to throw a little extra money towards EOTech advertising?
Just to make sure that, we're doing better, but we want to make sure we're covering all our costs other than that, and we'll look at kind of trying to move that up as we look into the future.
Second question, unrelated. There's been a lot of talk about the infrastructure we're building out at Amazon. What is the potential benefit for other industrial developers to the infrastructure we're building out there?
Well, they're extending lines that can be tapped into by other properties that are there adjacent or along the way. So that's really that's the potential for other potential users, both on the cooling water side, which is the regional water system, as well as they're extending water and sewer lines down 9th Street that will be open for all of that land that's going to be between their two campuses. So
do we have any interest? Have you noticed any interest based off the fact that we're developing infrastructure out there in other?
We do. We've had at least one. I know Mark went on a tour with one company that's looking for space, that's looking at that land between the two that we're purchasing from Amazon between the two campuses.
Thank you.
One other question. Under city manager legal, you've got about, is it 1.1? Is there any pending litigation or issues that may further affect the budget? you get, you've got a caption here. It says city manager / legal,
Right.
1.1 million. So I just wondered, are there any, is there any litigation or potential litigation that may affect what's going to happen in this budget?
Not that we're aware of.
Because you got a lot of money in for legal.
Well, I mean, that budget is about 95% personnel. So the reason it says legal, because it's me, the assistant city manager, city recorder,
Okay, so it's a
city
whole,
attorney,
it's not a big deal then.
and our
Okay,
personnel. So and our personnel
Got it.
staff.
thanks. Just
Yep.
That was recently restructured too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
which positions are coming from which.
Anything else?
Gotcha.
I really like the new format. I like it's easy to read, it's cleaner, and I really enjoyed the new budget.
Thanks. Good job, Tashin. All right. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. I think, this year is coming together a whole lot better than last year, which is a good thing.
Right.
And, is there any public comment? I don't see anyone here, so we'll forego that. So the next item on the agenda is to approve the tax levy, which is 6.0860 dollars per thousand. And that I understand it is maxed out
Yeah, that's our
per
max.
state law,
Yes.
which is pretty standard across the board for most municipalities. Is that?
Yeah, I would say most cities have maxed their rate out. There's
Yeah.
probably a few that haven't, but
Okay. So at this point, I would request a motion to approve the tax rate levy.
Second.
It has been moved by Ms. Davis and seconded by Counselor Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That has been approved. And the bonded debt, $24,580. Can you explain that for just clarification to us?
yeah, so our property tax is in two tiers, right? We have our $6.08 for operations, basically. And then any debt that had been approved by the voters then has a levy to pay it off. And I probably should have highlighted this, that we should be celebrating because this is substantially lower and this will be the last of this for this bond. So next year we will not have a bonded levy to
Okay.
ask for approval for. I believe in past years it's been over about 125, 130,000. And now all we need to make the last payment on this debt is 24,000.
That is good news.
Yeah. So it will lower people's rates a small amount.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the $24,580 bonded debt.
So moved.
Who was that?
McCarthy.
McCarthy?
McCarthy.
And
Second.
second by Lori Davis. Thank you. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And next is to consider a motion to approve the budget as presented. And I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been Moved by Lori Davis and seconded by Counselor Myers. All in favor, say aye.
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 Pose same sign. Okay, and with that, we will adjourn the budget committee meeting. Do we want to take like a 5-minute break or 10-minute break? Okay, and then we'll reconvene and do the urban renewal. 10 after 7, sounds good. Oh, no.
I can whistle for you.
Principal for it. What's it growing?
I think we're all in.
28?
Forget about it.
Yep.
Apparently is Oh, my God.
Oh, no, you have to. Hoping that they're not gone by the time it's.
What do you do when you're not doing this?
I teach, so for the most part, I teach, been teaching at Armin last 5 years. Teach special.
All right.
education.
So let's
For
call
math.
this,
Kids that are like
back from adjournment
grade
or
level
from,
in math.
from,
Yeah. Support them in math.
unconvening.
So.
And we'll reconvene with the beginning of the Hermiston Renewal Agency Budget Committee meeting. I'll go ahead and call this back to order. Use my trusty hammer thing. At this point in time, we need to re-elect a chairperson and secretary. I will entertain nominations for chairman. There we go. Okay, got a nomination and a second for Mr. Meisner to be the chairperson of the HURA committee, budget committee. Do I have any other? No? Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Okay. And I will continue on with taking nominations for a secretary.
Just nominate myself. because I'm-
I'll second.
There you go.
Beat you to the punch.
I'm so glad you're willing. So, anyway, it's been moved and nominated. All in favor of Lori being secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Clint Spencer and he'll give us the urban renewal district message.
Yeah, good evening. This is a pretty short budget message. We only have a 14-page budget for the Urban Renewal Agency. That's all they'll trust me with. So that's what we get. The Urban Renewal Agency itself manages 3 areas of the city that are targeted for improvement and or redevelopment. It operates through what we call tax increment financing. For those of you who are new to the budget committee, tax increment financing is within a district. When we form an urban renewal area, we essentially freeze the base of taxes at whatever that level is the year the district is formed. In our downtown agency, for instance, we formed it in 2013, has a $42 million frozen base. All of the agencies, the city, the school district, the county, the fire district, all the other agencies continue to get their annual tax revenue off of that frozen base out of the $42 million, for instance. But every additional dollar in assessed value that comes out of growth and or redevelopment is then sent into the urban renewal agency for that district. And then the taxes collected within that district are only to be spent within that district. Right now, like I said, we're managing 3 areas and the total combined budget for all 3 areas in the agency is $6,050,000, 642. Here's a map of the 3 areas to give you just an idea of what we're looking at. The downtown area right in the middle, that was the first one we formed in 2013. The second area we formed 2 years ago is the southwest area, and we'll get to that. It's targeted for residential development. And then just last fall, we formed the north area along Highway 395. And so we'll talk about each area and what its budget and projects are this year as we go through this. In the downtown area, we really only have one project that we're going to continue with for the 24-25 year, and that's our facade grant program. That is a program that we match for exterior improvements to buildings up to $20,000. When the program started, it was $10,000. With inflation, cost of doing business going up, we've upped it to $20,000 as our maximum grant. So we're requesting $60,000 in the budget for this year. That gives us the ability to work with 3 developers over the course of the year. Last year, we had cut it down to 20,000 just for budgetary reasons for cash flow with the Second Street project coming up. Now we're proposing with the Second Street completion to restore that to its 60,000 funding. And just for your information, I put up a picture of the Human Being, which is our new development that was on the previous site of the BP station. And Councilor McCarthy.
Did we reach our cap on
It's real hit and miss. Some years we do have all of them. This year we only had one, and that was the Human Being. And we've had a couple other projects we've worked on in the past. The Second Street realignment, that's essentially a safety improvement, also an extension of the Festival Street. You'll see that down by Papa Murphy's in the community center. That will finish up in this fiscal year. So the Second Street Gateway is zeroed out for the next year. Wayfinding was completed 2 years ago. It's zeroed out. This will be a cash building year, because the urban renewal area itself brings in about 300,000 a year. So with only 60,000 in budget for facade grants, another 100,000 in debt service, we'll be able to rebuild up our cash reserves and start looking at projects again next year.
Do you have anything in mind?
We have a lot of different projects. There's actually a project list in the urban renewal plan. And we've talked about doing business loans. We've talked about working towards museum improvements. I know that's something that has been looked at with the Carnegie Library. Street lighting, we've got a lot more decorative street lighting in the downtown area. We can carry that onto other things. So yes, as we build up projects, we have a lot of other options.
Okay.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Just because you mentioned business loans, there hasn't been an opportunity for me to speak up during council meetings, but I've received just random questions from business owners saying, what does the city have in effort to help small business? And they, once I probe a little deeper, the business loans is kind of a popular request.
Yeah. Now it would only be eligible for businesses who are within the district. So businesses on 395 or something would not be able to take advantage of that. And I'll flip the card back to you. Do you inform them of UEC's business loan program?
I've pointed them to the Small Business Resource Center. And
yes. Okay. So, yes.
A question. I guess more of another thought, I guess, for that. I know I've talked at least a little bit about outdoor seating, at least in the downtown area. I mean, potential projects, especially if we're not utilizing the facade grant. I think that'd be maybe a potential future project if people are interested or businesses are interested in doing that.
Yeah, that is definitely something we can look at. Landscape improvements are one of the things we always set aside a little bit of money for each year, and actually have awarded to people in the past for purchases of things like that.
One more question. The 60,000 on the facade, does that roll over if it's not utilized in a calendar or in a fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're building up your cash reserves that way. In the Southwest Hermiston urban renewal area, this is what we call the old C&B feedlot. It's an area that we brought into the urban growth boundary back in 2004. And at the time it was intended to be a residential development and golf course. That fell through way back when. As we've worked with the developers over the years, we've come to basically the conclusion that the infrastructure that's necessary for this development, mainly ensuring adequate water and building more or less a mile of sewer, is generally beyond the capacity of any one developer to shoulder. So we formed this urban renewal area to help build some of this public infrastructure, which has benefit above and beyond the city or the area itself, but will encourage development within that area. This year, we're looking at $600,000 budget request to continue on with the infrastructure engineering. The city's engineers have already started that project, and this is continuing on with that engineering. We're hoping to complete it by the end of calendar year 24, start looking at construction around first quarter 2025, and then residential development following that towards third quarter of 2025. And then we'll start seeing revenue increases in that area. This is the preliminary plan that the developer we've been working with has for that area. It's about 1,300 housing units combining multifamily, single-family, two-family, senior housing, as well as donating land to the school district and fire district for additional infrastructure. The third district is that North Hermiston urban renewal area that's between basically Elm and Theater along Highway 395. This is a highly targeted urban renewal area. It's essentially one project, and that's to build a new cross street between Northeast 4th Street and Highway 395, aligning on Highway 395 at Home Depot's intersection, and then signalizing that area. The idea behind this is to help relieve some of the congestion on Highway 395 in that segment. It is the highest traffic count in the entire Region 5 for ODOT. So we would like to be able to improve safety and circulation in that area. It also has the additional benefit of, you can see how the road is angled. There are some very unusually shaped parcels in that area. They have very little highway frontage and a canal that runs diagonally through there. It's really held back the ability of those properties to develop. This creates an additional point of access and additional frontage for those properties, thereby increasing our potential for retail development in the area everyone wants to see retail development. Yes, Councilor McCarthy.
I'm vaguely remembering some conversations around the answer to this question, but I need a refresher in regards to the intersection that would be made right across from the Home Depot extension. Do we think that it's possible or likely that there would be a stoplight put in place?
It's very likely. We've been in conversations with ODOT as recently as last month on that, and they've informed us of what the necessary steps are to signalize that.
And we think we can achieve that?
What we will do is do the paperwork necessary and the studies. It's still going to be a matter of determining through those studies when the traffic will reach what they call a warrant to install the signal. So it will have all of the groundwork laid to be ready to install a signal. We may have to wait for another 1,000 trips or something before we're allowed to install the signal.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. This project is the big item, why we have a $6 million urban renewal budget this year. It's a $4.9 million budget request. That is the $5 million loan coming from the city out of their bonds. We've already expended 100,000 of that in engineering services and real estate acquisition services, leaving 4.9 million for the next year. Those are basically the capital projects we'll be working on this year. We do still have collective expenses that the agency shares. We have non-departmental of 484,000, the majority of that going to debt service, Festival Street, and the bonded debt for the North Urban Renewal Area totals out to 446,000. We always have administrative costs that we bundle into materials and services. We have audit that's required for what we spend. We have notices that are required. We have legal advice we require. So we have materials and services. Other than that, we've completed the majority of the projects in the downtown area that we were working on, and be happy to answer any other questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Glenn. Well, since we don't have any public to comment, we will forgo that and go right to considering a motion to approve the budget for the Hermiston Urban Renewal Agency. And at this time, I would consider a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have multiple people.
I think it was Jackie and then me. Jackie Linton and then me.
Yes, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any opposed? Okay, none. And with that, We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Hell of a job.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Good job.
Really, really a pleasure talking to you.
Awesome.
Same as well, David.